Okay, so Grandma, can you tell me a little bit about where your family came from?
My mother came from Austria-Hungary. My father from England.
And how old was Oma when she came over here?
She was 10 years old. She lived with her grandmother till she was 10. She didn't know her mother because she had never seen her. She was just a baby when her mother left her with her grandmother. And when her mother came together, she found out she had a brother and a father, because her mother got married to someone else when she came over to this country, America. She was 10 when she came, and her brother was a baby. They lived on Gallagher Street. My grandmother had a restaurant. She was in business. She was just a good cook, and she just decided to start a restaurant, and she did. But yeah, I used to do menus. They used to make me do the menus because I guess my handwriting is all right. And so my grandmother used to give me a menu every day, and sometimes she'd give me more than others, and I'd tell her, "Oh, Grandma, that's 13, that's bad luck," and so she'd add one. Yeah.
What was the name of the restaurant?
Roth's, R-O-T-H. That was her husband's name.
What were some of the things that she made? Do you remember? Some of her specialties?
Well, they had fresh oysters and clams and things like that. They had a regular bar set up where they could open them and all. And she made a lot of good soups and German dishes. A lot of German dishes they made. She did very well. She was a hard worker. I know that. She raised us 3 girls by herself because she was divorced from my father, and he was an alcoholic, and so we lived in Jersey then, and then when she came up to Philadelphia, then she went to work for her mother, and she was a waitress. My grandmother, she was married in Germany when she had my mother. And then she left my mother with her grandmother, and she went over to America, and she married Roth. She wasn't divorced from this Schmegner.
Wow. So she was married to 2 men at the same time.
But the ocean's a big ocean.
Right.
Yeah. But I never knew Schmegner, though. That would be my grandfather, really, my real grandfather.
Right. Have you ever gone over to visit family over there?
No, I never had the opportunity. The Carpathian Mountains, near there. Nelson and I went over there, and I said, I felt that it just felt strange because we were near that, and I said, this must be where my family came from.
How did Oma teach you a lesson about not drinking too much wine?
Oh, I used to like wine. I mean, if we had company, I'd go around sipping what was left in the glasses, My mother got worried because my father was an alcoholic, and she thought maybe it was in the genes. And so she thought, well, my mother had very good ways to get at things. She sat me down one day, and she said, like a little bit of wine. So I said, oh boy. So she gave me wine. She gave me more wine. She gave me pretty good wine, and then she took me for a ride in the car. I got so sick. I'd never touch the stuff after that.
And how did she teach kids about not touching things that were hot?
My mother did that. She used to put their hands underneath her or on top or something, you know, and she'd go near the fire and wait till it hurt her, and then they would feel it. So that was what she showed. How she showed them that the fire was hot. She had unique ways of doing things. You know, at Easter you get a
chick or a
she
duck?
had a little chicken, a pet chicken. And she raised that chicken, and she liked it. And that was Sharon who did that. She had that chicken. It was like a family, you know. And then one day it started to cock-a-doodle-doo with the rooster. So my father Nelson said, "I've gotta go," you know. So my mother took the rooster, and she killed it, and we went for her house for dinner, and she told Sharon that was a terrible thing to do.
Well, that's what was for dinner, huh?
Yeah, that's what we had for dinner. Yeah.
And how old were you when your dad wasn't in the picture anymore?
I guess I was just about 5, I guess, when we left Jersey, because then my sister, she was the favorite, and I was just kind of a tag along. And then when my uncle came down, he saw that, and he said to my grandmother, and he was her favorite, so Uncle Ernest. He said to my grandmother, "Look at her, she's in. Nothing wrong with that child." And so he took me as his favorite. So when my mother left Jersey, came up to Philadelphia, I was the favorite.
Ah.
So that was a kind of a turnaround. That was if there was an argument, my uncle would take my side, and you know, so that worked out well.
Worked for you, huh?
Yeah, for me. Yeah. That's not a good thing, though. So that's where I learned not to have favorites.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who's your favorite grandchild?
I don't have a favorite. I don't. That's what I made up my mind. My grandchildren were all special.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all wonderful. God's gift.
How many great grandchildren do you have now?
26.
26. So what about Opa? When did he come into the picture, and how did they meet?
Oh, Albert. He was my stepfather.
Your stepfather, yeah.
Yeah, I was about 16, I guess, when I got married. My father was in an automobile accident, was killed, and then then she didn't get married till he was dead. And she married Albert, and that's another story. Yeah.
How did they meet? Do you know?
Well, they knew each other for a long time because Ernest was friends with the Canuts, and I guess that's how they met. They got along fine. They were good together.
Mm-hmm. What were some of your childhood memories?
Oh, I still remember sitting on the step and listening to the neighbors playing the piano, and I'm so covetous over that. I just wanted to play the piano so bad, and I just sit there and listen, and we couldn't afford to pay for a piano lesson, so I just listened. I never did get piano lessons. But Nelson could he played somewhat. He'd be down the basement playing the piano, and all of a sudden and I'd be humming along, and he did a rough note. That was the end of that.
How did you come to know about God?
I guess I have Stuart to thank for that, really. Because My mother used to send us to Sunday school, but it was a Lutheran church, and I learned more about the pastor's canary and cat and all that than I did about Jesus. So, but Stuart, when he married Sharon, he, I mean, that's funny because he was Jewish, you know, and he was. But then he opened that church, and you know, Nelson and I were very active there. Nelson did a lot. He had all kinds of breakfasts. He'd bake up breakfasts and things like that, and I'd do the flowers for the centerpieces. And Stuart preached the gospel. I mean, and so that was how I really first realized, you know, that there was I had any connection with the Lord, you know. And I was just, I just took things for granted. It was just the way it was, but then I found out it wasn't the way it was. And I got thankful that I had a wonderful husband, and because Nelson was a good husband. For 65 years, that's a lot of time.
How did you and Grandpa meet?
I was going skating with my cousin, and I was staying at her house in Ardsley. And we were going to get on the bus to go, on the trolley, it was trolley then, to go to Willow Grove to the skating rink. And Nelson was with his buddies on the corner. And he knew Helen. And he called her up and asked her who that girl was that and then he introduced me, and that didn't go too good. So, yeah, so he was a lot older than he was 26, and I was only 20. So, I mean, the Lord had His hand on me then. I know already because I knew what was wrong and what was right, and it was, you know, I just men were, they didn't get too far with me. I just. So, I mean, and Nelson found that out very quick.
Yeah.
So, but he was a quick learner, so that was good.
What was your first date?
We
What was it like?
Well, Helen went with us. It was a double date.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we went to a movie. And then we came home. That didn't go too good. So I said goodbye. And Helen says, "How did you like Nelson?" I said, "You can have him." So anyway, but then we went skating again, and he came up to the skating rink and asked me if he could take me home, and I said no. And then my cousin had lined up these goofy fellows to take us home. I thought, well, I could handle him one time. I guess he's better to take us home than these other guys. So I said, he came back, and I told him, changed my mind, he could take me home. But he was perfectly fine, and then everything went, after that, we clicked. Yeah. But he didn't know the Lord either. He was not a Christian.
Mm.
So, I mean, we just sort of, we lived a good life, but that's not where we just weren't there, that's all. But that's why I often say I pity people that don't have the opportunity, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to be raised in a Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could have been lost in a crowd too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We were married in December, and he went into a service in August. Went overseas in August. He was in a service before that, but he went overseas, and I didn't see him for 3.5 years. That's a long time.
What did you do during that time?
I went to work at Bendix. That was a defense plant where they made ammunition for parts for planes and things. And I was going to win the war. But I worked there for, that was good. I was able to save $10,000, and that was a lot of money in those days. Yeah. So Nelson would send me home money, and so. But that was not a good time. That was a long time.
Did you see Grandpa at all in those 3.5 years?
No,
No, he didn't come back. He wasn't able to come back at all.
no. He was in the Battle of Bulge too. He was second day. First day they were supposed to go the first day, and his outfit got down with the GIs, and they couldn't go. So they went the second day, and most of the men were killed on the first day. So that was the Lord. He was stationed in England, and then from there he went over to. He saw a lot of Europe, those days.
What was his nickname?
Whitey. Yeah. He was like Gabriel. Only his hair was curly. The kids used to love to play with his hair. They'd lay on the sofa and they'd run their fingers through his hair. Yeah. He did have nice hair.
So how were you able to communicate during the war?
Just by, we had all the, at first you could write letters, but then after a while they sent these email, and then you'd get a letter and half it would be cut out. That's what you got. In our day it was just like, we had these little puddle jumper planes. We didn't have big jets and all that stuff.
What's the biggest invention or technology that has changed in your lifetime?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. We even radio. We just had these little ham radio, like your earphones. One person could listen, and that was your radio.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. No TV. TVs didn't come in until your mother and Jenny were teenagers. So what did they do? Without all these mud pies were good.
What were birthdays and Christmas like growing up?
That wasn't a big deal. You got one present and that was it. In fact, my mother, we were getting older, and Adeline, she decided she wanted a clock radio for her. We had to ask what we wanted. And my mother decided she was getting older, she needed some nice underwear and things like that. So she got her that. Adeline was never so unhappy on Christmas Day when she didn't get her clock radio. My mother took it all back and got her the clock radio. And I got roller skates. I spent all Christmas roller skating up and down the house. Shoe skates do this.
Yeah. That's fun.
Got them.
You still roller skate with them?
Yeah, right. You're lucky I can walk. It's quite a time. Yep.
So you were saying how holidays were pretty simple growing up and you only got one gift. But I always remember growing up that you and Grandpa did so much for holidays and different things to make family time special.
Well, that's one of those things, that you're going to do. What you didn't have, you're going to give yours a little bit better. That's how this happens. So we made sure that our children would have a good holiday.
What were some special traditions that you guys used to do for holidays and family times? You always made a huge meal.
Oh, we always had a
Yeah.
big meal, and usually, my mother used to, be part of that too. She was. Then it was we took over after Mother. She used to do it though, and for a long time. She'd have all the holidays. But then, after she got older, we took over.
And you took each of your grandkids to Disney World.
Oh yeah, we did do that. That was fun. Oh, that was great. That was something to remember. They really enjoyed that. They got to us each one. Well, you went. You were one of the first ones to go, weren't you?
Adam and David, and then Heather and I went together.
Yeah.
And then Josh and Tamara.
Heather spilled the Coke in the suitcase.
The first day we got there, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I think the kids enjoyed the pool more than just as much as Disney World. Really, you couldn't wait to get back to that pool. You spent all this money on Disney World, and you take them, and they can't wait to get back to that pool.
You had some funny stories when Adam and David went, I remember.
Adam and David.
Taking them.
Oh, Adam would fall asleep. We had to carry him home.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he would. Well, he was kind of young, and but it was fun. We enjoyed it. Yeah. But we had to watch those two. One would go out one exit, and the other one would go another. Nelson and I we'd have to be watching all the ways the kids could get out of the amusements, because they sure as heck find different ways.
I remember you came up with rules for Heather and I after going with Adam and David, because you figured out some of the things.
Yeah, things where we get a little control.
One of the rules was that you would let us do any ride, but you wouldn't take us on Space Mountain.
Well, that was scary.
Right, it was too much. But I think Adam and David talked you into going on it.
Well, that's where we learned.
Right.
That, it was a little frightening.
Yeah, was it?
For young kids. But they had enough good stuff that they could watch. They didn't miss anything.
Right.
Now that would be what they'd look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be sure you get that story about Lily with her skin. Lily, she goes like this. Mom, your skin is so loose. And I said, honey, when Mom goes to heaven, it's going to be nice and smooth, just like your face. And she came back. She went away, and she came back a little bit later. She said, Mom, when you go to heaven and get this fixed, get your face done too. Yeah, can you imagine a 3-year-old saying something like that? And Asher told me, I told him I was getting old. He says, you're already old.
Leave it to kids.
Yeah, that's the kids.
Yeah, you probably have a lot of stories between your grandkids and great-grandkids.
Yeah, they're great. Love those kids. God made anything better. We gotta wait till we get up there to see it.
Did you ask the